Hi, it's the 20th of November 2025 and we're just going to do a quick assessment of our hives from the outside varroa control and from just looking at the top of the board where we have a clear board and see how they're clustering. In addition, we're going to heft the hive just to see that they've got enough stores for the next few weeks. First things first, before we take the top off, if we're going to have a check the inspection board and look at what we can find on here. We have wax, wax platelets, sugar, we've got some uncappings. There's a general cluster in the middle, so that's what we'd expect to see when we take the top off, is the bees around about this area. Not a lot of uncapping on the edges. And from a varroa perspective, I'm counting probably about 15 varroa on this board. Before we heft it, so we do things consistently. Have a quick check of the clustering, and as we were expecting from the inspection board, they're clustered around this centre, and there's obviously a good number of bees we're seeing there, which is a good sign. They're active. So let's put the insulation back, and then we'll give it a heft and see what we think. That's a good weight. No problem with that, I'm happy with that. Certainly go through till at least January, I think, but we'll give it occasional heft. And we'll do that for all the hives we have in the apiary.
This is an unusual one. So what have we got here? You may think are cocoons from wax moth. They're not. These are slug trails. Right, and once they dry and the wind blows, they collect. So it's slug trail. I've did quite an examination on that, and it's not the threads that the wax moth larvae produce. Although it looks very similar, it's not. It's just slug trail, dried slug trail debris, blowing and collecting. Don't worry if you see that. And again, one or two varroa, but I'm not concerned. The cluster, because you identified the cluster as maybe.
Let's have a look on the top of the crown board to see if the cluster map mirrors what we see in the inspection board. Interesting enough, the bees are over this area, which is where the darker part was. Looking through here, it actually looks capped. I'm concerned that this was being uncapped. So, good cluster of bees, in fact, a large cluster of bees. Let's heft it and see that our interpretation of what's on the inspection board, what we can see on here, and how much it weighs, and that gives us a feel for the whole viability of the hive. I would say it's a good weight, as good as the first one. Again, so not concerned about the lack of stores.
Knowing we've gave this one, according to our records, 20 litres of 2-to-1 syrup.
Just taking the inspection board off our third hive, and looking at it, you can see a small cluster here and a bit of activity, but very little else. Not a lot of activity at all. So when we look in the top of our clear crown board, what we would expect to see would be a cluster around about here. So let's have a look. And that very much mirrors the inspection board of what we're seeing down there. So very much a smaller colony than the previous two that we've had a look at.
But not to worry.
Not to worry. I mean, I think those other two are actually quite exceptional for this time of year. You'd expect them to be slightly smaller, so this is more on the norm. So let's have a look at the weight and heft it to see. It's frozen. It feels a little bit lighter. Obviously there's less bees. It's still a fair weight. It's a little bit lighter. Oh, big. Nice and warm. Good cluster. Doesn't quite match the inspection board. The inspection board's got very little activity, but that shows a very nice colony. That's heavy. So plenty of stores.
What we've got here from the inspection board is quite clearly a cluster in the centre of the hive, and some sugar crystals or wax crystals. Have we any varroa?
Yep, varroa, yeah.
But not copious amounts of varroa.
40 varroa.
40 over 30 days. And let's look to see if the cluster mirrors exactly. It's always good to know that what you see on the inspection board mirrors. And a heft.
Medium heavy. It's not a big cluster. They've shrunk down quickly. Okay, we've just done a snapshot inspection of our apiary, and it's very good to look at the inspection boards and see which hives are doing well. A couple of that, the crown boards and the way the inspection boards mirror what we're seeing through the crown boards. All the hives are different. Some are bigger than the others. Some are quite small, some have no varroa, some have quite a lot of varroa. So it's really good for us to identify that, write it all down, and make sure it's recorded so that we can then look at doing a oxalic acid on certain colonies. And we have identified what we need to do the next time we're here, mainly to do with oxalic acid and putting fondant on certain ones.